أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال ما مكني فيه ربي خير فأعينوني بقوة أجعل بينكم وبينهم ردما. My dear respected elders and brothers, mothers and sisters, if they are there too, we have been doing the Surah Kahf, and we have reached up to the point of Dhul Qarnayn. We explained, I'm not going to go deep into it, we did some abahath and discussion about who Dhul Qarnayn was. Many of the mu'arrikheen, mufassirin, those who are historians, while being mufassirin, knowing the meaning of the Quran, they came to the conclusion that it was a character, a person, a real person of course, who is in the Bible. That's why the Jews asked about it. His name is Cyrus. Even some of the people who were listening, one student came to me and said, I remember reading about Cyrus and how he took over Babylon in school. So that same Cyrus, which is in the Bible, the Old Testament, and which they call Horus, and which the Jews also used to call him Dhul Qarnayn because he had connected the Persian Empire at that time, which was in the north and the south. He became king of both of them, and he connected them, which was not done in the history of the Persian Empire. And that's why he was called Dhul Qarnayn, and his voyages and his missions also in history and in the Bible are mentioned, where he traveled all the way west. We talked about that. All the way to the kingdom of Lydia, where he went all the way and saw the sun setting in the murky waters. We explained about that. Then he went back east and met which now, where the tribes from Baluchistan and these places come, southern Baluchistan, western Baluchistan. He met with the Bakhtiyar tribes there. He could not even understand what they are saying. They didn't even have houses, very simple people. He met with them there while he was ready to take over Babylon. And we mentioned also that Babylon was not mentioned because the Jews were asking, and Allah Ta'ala just indicated towards it, where he said, وَقَدْ أَحَطْنَا بِمَا لَدَيْهِ خُبْرًا, that we have encompassed all of the information about Dhul Qarnayn. Meaning, we don't even have to mention Babylon, we mention things that you didn't even know. His meeting with the people over there, with the Bakhtiyar tribes, and also his meeting in the west and the east, and different aspects that you didn't even know about. Why should I mention that which is known? Everybody knows about the Babylon and the voyage of theirs, so that's why Allah Ta'ala mentioned here. And next was the famous traveling and his taking over the northern area, which was over the Persian Empire, and now we're going into Azerbaijan and near southern Russia. This is up near the north. And this is where he went, and this is where he encountered a tribe who was being bothered by Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Ya'juj, Ma'juj, we also explained last week that Ya'juj, Ma'juj are basically the descendants of Japheth. Japheth was one of the sons of Nuh alayhi salam. And we also went into detail, I'm not going to go into detail again, but basically those tribes from the tribe of Japheth, which was the Scythian tribe, which came down and settled on the eastern side of the Black Sea. These were the ones that stayed by the Black Sea. They were very rural, meaning they did not go into the cities and they did not lose their heritage. And they became very savage type people, and they were attacking many of the people around. This is what basically the historians have said, who Ya'juj and Ma'juj is. This is of course things which are studied and looked at. It could be wrong, Allah Ta'ala knows best. But history-wise, the mu'arrikheen, mufassirin, here we should always look at those mufassirin who are mu'arrikheen also, meaning they're historians. It's connecting with history. So therefore, they say these are those people. There are some things that we've heard about in regards to the Ya'juj and Ma'juj that might be in our minds. We may have heard about it also. Somebody's talking on the phone. It's okay, don't worry. So there are some things that we have we have heard about Yajuj and Majuj that basically are from what we call the Israeliyat. They are from some of the passages that have been brought down by the Jews and these type of people. And they are very far-fetched. For example, some of the different sayings amongst the Jews, they say that the Yajuj and Majuj are very extremely small people. Very small, we might have heard this before. And some of them are very large, like ogres and these type of folktale things. Some have said that their ears are very large, to such an extent that if one of them lays on the floor, then he can use his ear as a cover, as a kambal, and cover himself with his ear, and then he can sleep like this and keep himself warm. Some other sayings say that they only eat once a year, and is a fish that comes out from the water, and they eat this fish and they feast on it. The fish is extremely large, they eat that, and then that's all they eat the whole year. These are all very far-fetched stories, more like fairy tales, and many of our Mufassirin and Muhaddithin have rejected these type of statements and have said that there's nothing at all which indicates towards Yajuj and Majuj not being human like us. They're just very savage, and there are people who like to fight and kill and plummet and just destroy people. This is what has been indicated in the hadith. So there's no need for us to think that they are some type of goblins or something like this. They are not like this. Carrying on with the story of Dhul Qarnayn, and we'll talk about two things basically today. The wall that he erected, where is that wall, and is that wall still up or not? And we'll talk about also the reality of what we call Fathum Yajuj Majuj. When will Yajuj Majuj come out? Have they come out already? What is that according to the Mu'arrikhin Mufassirin? So in this ayat, we know that Dhul Qarnayn had came upon these people. He's in the north now, and these people are complaining about Yajuj and Majuj. Because Yajuj and Majuj are coming, they're killing them, beating them up, stealing things from them. Villages around also are suffering, and then they're going back to their place, and they keep coming back and forth. So they're looking for some type of what we call a rampart, something to now stop them, a wall to stop them from coming. And it can't be no regular wall because these people are savages. Obviously, if it's a regular wall, they may try and scale it and climb it. They may try and break it. So the wall had to be very fortified, and a wall like basically nobody has made before. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the fact that Dhul Qarnayn had accepted. They told him, what we did last week, they told him, فَهَلْ نَجْعَلُ لَكَ خَرْجًا Let us give you some type of payment. We can pay you for this job. We need you to be our contractor, and you must build this rampart and this extremely large wall to stop them. Kharjan means payment, a payment. فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ it says after that, عَلَىٰ أَن تَجْعَلَ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ صَدًّا that you can make for us a wall in between us and them. So we'll pay you for this. And we know that Dhul Qarnayn from before, because he took over the Persian Empire, Allah Ta'ala gave him a lot of riches. We did it already. فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا آتَيْنَاهُ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ سَبَبًا He had a lot of things. So therefore, being a pious man and a great man, he was very generous as well. And he told them that مَا مَكَنِّي فِيهِ رَبِّي خَيْرٌ Whatever my Lord has given me and has established me with, it is better than that which you have offered me. Meaning he had istighna, he was mustaghni. He was a person who was independent. And he didn't say that, I'm rich. He could have said that, I'm a rich man, what you bringing your little petty money over here, put your purse away, put your change purse away. He could have said that, but what he did is he made it mansoob and he related it to what Allah Ta'ala had given him, his Lord. So he said, مَا مَكَنِّي فِيهِ Whatever Allah Ta'ala, how Allah has established me فِيهِ يعني في هذا الأرض, in this earth, Rabbi, my Lord, خَيْرٌ It is better than what you can give me. So therefore, I'll do it for free. I don't need you to pay me anything. But, فَأَعِينُونِي You should understand, sometimes, your child, you do everything for him, but you want him to do a little bit just to know the value of that thing. So he told him that you should help me though. So you understand, you have manpower, it's your problem. So I may need some manpower, some people who can do some construction, pick up some bricks, pick up things for me, light the fire. These type of things I may need. So فَأَعِينُنِي بِقُوَّةٍ. Help me with your strength. Give me some manpower. Help me with some of your men. Make this wall. أَجَعَلْ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ رَدَمًا. And I will put between you and them a rampart. Radama means a large wall which will become a barrier between you and them. And they won't be able to attack you then. So he started now. He tells them, آتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين قال انفخوا حتى إذا جعله نارا قال آتوني أفرغ عليه قطرا. He mentions here that آتوني زبر الحديد, bring to me pieces of metal, pieces of steel. So what was done is that these large pieces of steel, which would be basically like we have cinder block right now, and bricks, it was big gigantic steel pieces. And these steel pieces were stacked on each other, and this was basically the wall which was made. It's mentioned, the Mufassir have mentioned that he must have built some metal, and then another metal, and in the middle and in between he put coal and wood, because he wanted to light a fire for it. Couldn't just put metal there because they can knock that over. So this is indicating towards that. Atuni zubar al-hadid. Bring me large bricks and bring me large pieces of metal. And they did that and they started stacking the wall. Hatta idha sawa bayna sadafain. Until it now became even between sadafain. Sadafain basically is the top of a mountain. Because I told you before, and we'll see later on also, bayna sadain. Yani, this was in between two mountains. So you had two mountains who were high already, and it was coming down like this. It wasn't coming all the way to the floor. You had a mountain you had to climb, because all mountains don't come all the way to the floor. Some mountains connect at the middle. So this is Sadafain and Sadain. The Mufassir mentioned that it's that type of mountain that joins at the middle. So the mountains came like this, and they joined at the middle. So it made it a little bit easier for Dhul Qarnayn also, because they didn't have to make the wall all the way to the floor. And it made it easier for us also later on, that if we started looking at this wall, so any wall that we found that was going all the way to the floor was not the wall of Dhul Qarnayn, which we'll explain later on. So, Sawa bayna sadafain. Basically, the top of this mountain, the top of this mountain, now Sawa bayna sadafain. He built the metal up all the way that now it was over the two mountains. So high. Then after that he mentioned, قَالَ انْفُخُوا. Blow on it, meaning obviously they lit a fire and they started blowing on this wall. Now obviously the people didn't start blowing, because you're blowing on a wall. What type of people is that? Everyone's going to start blowing. So they had bellows. You guys know what a bellow is? A bellow is basically, if you ever seen the guy who makes kebab, and he has that thing like that, and he starts blowing it, and that makes the fire come. Anyone is a real good barbecuer, so you have a bellow, right? Real good barbecue guy. He pulls out that thing and whoa, he can make his burgers, right? And he starts now what? He probably has it, right? You have a bellow, right? I know he has a bellow for sure. So they made gigantic bellows, and these bellows were then being pushed down, and they were blowing this air into the wall, and then obviously the coal was burning and the wood was burning, and this was now melting the steel. So, جَعَلَهُ نَارًا, until he made it into a fire. That wood and coal now started becoming a fire. Then after that, آتوني أفرغ عليه كترا. He said, come to me, أفرغ عليه كترا, and then now pour copper over it. So then copper and brass was then poured over this wall, which made it smooth now, because you had the pieces of metal, but pieces of metal, it would act like a mountain then, meaning there's crevices in it, and the Yajuj Majuj would be able to what? Climb over it, right? But by putting the copper on it, the copper poured down and it made it smooth also. So it was very difficult to go through and very difficult to climb also. Both these things. And obviously if they wanted to climb over, then they had to go through a certain part of the mountain, and then the people could repel them much easier than them just coming to the valley. Because the question arises that, why don't they just go to the mountainside? two sides of the mountain. But now strategically it was very hard for them to do that, because now you know where they're coming from. So then the people could now fight them and battle them if they had to. And of course the Quran has stayed quiet about that. That was just an answer I just gave, just in case anyone was wondering. So he said, Atuni, come to me. Ufrig alayhi kitra, I will pour copper on it now, and that will make the wall solid. So you had steel, wooden coal in between to make it melt, and then he melted the copper over it, and that made a very large, smooth steel wall that was keeping the Ya'juj and Ma'juj out. After this, he said to the people, فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا أَن يَظْهَرُوهُ وَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقَبًا. He says that فَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا, they will not be able أَن يَظْهَرُوهُ, to go over it. يَظْهَرُوا means to jump over it. Why? Because of its height, and also because of the smoothness. It was such a high wall, and also there's no way to climb up it. For example, trying to climb up this wall, you won't be able to do it because there's nothing you can grab onto. So because of the smoothness of it, they could not go over the wall. وَمَا اسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقَبًا, and they were not able to break through it because of the solidness and the hardness of it. You had copper, you had some wood in there also, and then you had the steel inside, so therefore they couldn't break through as well. So this basically now was the wall of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj. After this, Dhul Qarnayn, then of course, as the Anbiya of the past did, and the Awliya are doing now, still to this day and did in the past, he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he says, قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَّبِّي فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّاءَ وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. He says, قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَّبِّي, this is a mercy from my Lord. Meaning, these type of walls, because a person might think that, okay, Sheikh Mikaeel, you've told about this wall, sounds nice. Who the hell can make a wall like that? Of course, these days people can do it. People can make these type of walls. Now we have the type of technology and things like this, and these bases and aircraft carriers. These type of things are probably as big or maybe even bigger than that wall. But at that time, of course, this was also the miracle of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala made it a miracle on the hands of Dhul Qarnayn, that at that time a wall could be built like that. So that's why he says, Rahmatun min Rabbi. This is a mercy from my Lord. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي, and when the promise of my Lord comes, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّا, my Lord will make it into dust. He will make it into dust. وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا, and the promise of my Lord, it is true. Let's just read the next ayat, and then we're going to go into some explanation. After that he says, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمْعًا. After this, Allah Ta'ala says that وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ, and we have left some of them on that day, meaning on the day when the wall breaks. يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ, that they will be barreling over each other, meaning there's so many of them that they will be running all over each other. Like a wave. You know how the waves go on top of each other? Or sometimes in these large stadiums they do the wave. You ever done the wave before? We used to go to baseball game together. So you do the wave. The wave meaning when the people come, then you all stand up, and because there's so many people, so you can do the wave, and the wave looks like it goes around the whole stadium. If this small people did it, it wouldn't matter, right? Because we're only about 40 of us. But when you have 5,000, 6,000 people, 50,000 people, and they all put up a red sign or something, then the whole thing looks beautiful. So these people will be coming so much Ya'juj, there'll be so many of them that they'll look like a wave, and they will be on top of each other because of so much of them. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, and the horn will be blown, meaning for Qiyamah. فَجَمَعْنَاهُمْ جَمْعًا, and we will gather all of them, meaning all of the insan. Now let's stop here, because there's two discussions that we have to make here. One discussion is about this wall. That is this wall still here, or is the wall not still here? Or where is the wall? So there's basically two views and two ways that these ayat that I've read to you, the last couple of ayat, there's two ways that it's looked at. Some ulama say that we don't know where the wall is. It's a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It happened with Ya'juj, Ma'juj. It's still up to this day a wall. The Ya'juj, Ma'juj are behind it. They have not broken through yet. and they will break through before the day of Qiyamah. This is the common view of most Mufassireen, and they have a hadith to back it up also. There is a hadith in Tirmidhi where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that every day right before the sun comes out, the Yajuj and Majuj, they make an effort to break the wall. And they do it by licking the wall. They lick at the wall and they break a bit of it. They break a bit of it. When the sun comes up, so then they look at each other and they say that let's take a rest and we'll come back later on and try and break it again. When they come back and try and break it again, so it comes back to its normal place. Until one day where they will do the same thing again and they will say Insha'Allah. When they say Insha'Allah, so then when they come back, they'll see that the wall is at its same, and then they will break through. When they break through, they will plummet many, many people. We know that they'll fight with Isa alayhi salam and this type of things, and I'm not going to go into that whole story. But they will come out, and they will kill many people. And one thing that they will do is that they will then shoot an arrow in the sky, because they said we have killed so many people. Now we want to look towards their Lord. And they will shoot an arrow in the sky, and that arrow will come back from the sky with blood on it, and they will say that we have killed Allah. Na'udhu billah. This hadith is in Tirmidhi, and we'll discuss more about it. I know some of the people sitting like, what the hell was that hadith? So we'll talk about that. There's another hadith in Bukhari, where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam one time looked at the Sahaba and said, Wailu lil Arab. That there's destruction on the Arab. And he says that the wall of Yajuj and Majuj has been broken this much. فَحَلَّقَ Nabi Sam, he made a thing like this, a hole in the wall. And he said, it has been broken this much. Then Nabi Sam stayed quiet. After that, one Sahabi asked and said, that will we be destroyed even though we are good people and we're doing good deeds, we'll still be destroyed? Then Nabi Sam said, yes, you can be destroyed. إِذَا كَثُرَ الْخَبَثِ When sin is rampant and sin is in general, then even the pious people, if Allah destroys something or sends destruction and adab, even the pious people unfortunately become destroyed in that also. When sins are now very general and everyone's doing sin, of course the pious people will be raised ala niyatihim, they'll be raised according to their needs and their intentions and their piety, but they still will pass away. They won't be left as an exception. If there's an earthquake, they'll die also. And we see that so many places where the pious people are passing away also. May Allah protect us. So this is where the Mufassirin say that these hadith show that the Yajuj Majuj will break out, and this will happen near Qiyamah, and where the wall is, we are not responsible for doing that. Allah has said it, Allah knows best, and the wall must be somewhere, nobody knows where it is. That's the first view of the common Mufassirin. There is another view that some muhaqqiqeen, researched, mu'arrikheen, we can say historian and mufassirin, those who do the exegesis and they know the meaning of the Quran, they have looked at it in a little bit of a different way. And they have said that if we look right now, and especially now according to us also, this would be a little bit easier answer for us, that it's quite far-fetched that we think that there are places or parts of the world where people don't know what's going on. Pretty much with the airplanes and GPS and everything, we pretty much have seen the whole world. Pretty much. Of course, there could be things on the bottom, earthquakes could have happened and covered things, and that's not far-fetched. But to say that this wall is somewhere we don't see it, sometimes people feel it's a little bit far-fetched to say such a thing. So some of the Mufassirin, they look at the ayat in a different way, and the hadith in a different way, and they say that the Quran and the ayat are not basically forcing us into this view that they are there and they'll come out before Qiyamah. There's different ways that we can look at the ayat, where we don't have to look at it like that. So they say that this wall could have been present. And there's two things Allah Ta'ala has left for us in the Quran to look for this wall, I told you before. One is that it's between two mountains, and the second thing is that it's made out of steel. It's a very unique thing of the wall. If it was made out of brick, so then we'd be very confused. So since it's made out of steel, we know that by process of elimination, we can just start eliminating a whole bunch of walls very fast. Because once we see it's brick, that's not the wall of Dhul Qarnayn. We're looking for a metal wall. So if we look, there's about 4 walls that the Mu'arrikheen have talked about. The first one, of course, that many of us probably already have in our mind already, is the Great Wall of China. Right? That big, large wall that looks like something, and But of course, history is very clear about that. We know who built that wall. Right? That wall was built with a lot of zulm, a lot of oppression. A lot of people died. They say there's bodies that are in that wall. Right? And we know if we go to China that we can also go on top of that and run around and take pictures and things like that. Doesn't look like it's going to, if I can go up there and climb over it, then I'm pretty sure Ya'juj Ma'juj can do also. If Maulvi Sahib can go over the wall, Ya'juj Ma'juj pretty much can also. So we know that it's not, and plus it's built with brick. It's not a metal wall. So therefore, that wall of China is eliminated, and the ulama don't even really go into it because it's very far-fetched that was the wall that Dhul Qarnayn built. There are some other walls that are in the basically northern part, southern Russia and northern Azerbaijan, and there's basically 3 walls there. One wall is called the Wall of Darband. Then there's Sadd Darband, and then there's the Valley of Darband. These are 3 walls. The first wall, which they call the Wall of Darband, is a wall that has been seen by the historians, and that wall had a metal door, but it was built from brick, and also it was built from the floor up. It wasn't between 2 mountains. So that's eliminated. It's not it. The second one, which is a very famous wall, they call it Babul Abwab, the door of doors. It's also called the Gate of Alexander. So that's where people start thinking that might be the wall. But the people say that, they say that Alexander the Great built that wall. But in history, there is no recorded history that Alexander the Great went to any of these places and built any walls. So it's just something that, a myth, and they called it the Gate of Alexander. This wall also is made out of stone. It comes from the wall up, and it cannot be the wall of Dhul Qarnayn. There is another one that is more west of it, and that is called the Valley of the Rial, or the Valley of Darband. This we're talking about now, northern Azerbaijan, basically where the Caucasian mountains are. A lot of mountain range, a lot of people are not there. It's there where the Caucasian mountains are, right in southern Russia, the border of Russia and Azerbaijan. So there's not a wall there anymore. The mountains, you can see, there's pictures of it. If you look on Google, there's pictures of it. It is 2 large mountains like this. But there's no more wall there left over. There's not even any remnants or any type of anything left over. Ruins of any walls also there. But if we look in history, in the 3rd century of Islam, Ibn Khaldun has written in his book Al-Masalik wal-Madhahib that Wathiq Billah, who was from the Abbasid Empire, he was in the 3rd century, about 237 was his Khilafat. And Wathiq Billah was very interested in history, very interested in these things in the Quran also. So he sent out a lot of what we call archaeologists. They sent out groups of them to go search and look for these things. And in that book it's written that one of the Jama'at of Wathiq Billah came to him and talked about these 3 walls, and mentioned that the 3rd wall, which most people don't go towards, was a wall that we saw which was made of steel. It was made of steel. According to Imam Razi, Fakhruddin Razi, according to Ibn Khaldun, and according to even Allama Shah Kashmiri, who was one of the great ulama of India, of Deoband, they say that this was the wall of Ya'juj Ma'juj. And they say that this wall has been broken already. Now how can they say that when we have those 2 hadith, right? So if you look at the first hadith, when I related that hadith to you, how did you feel about that hadith? It felt a little bit far-fetched, wasn't it? That they'll shoot the sky and the blood will come and they're licking the wall. And also Ya'juj Ma'juj, such evil people, what the hell they got to do with inshallah? What do they have to do with inshallah? If they were good with inshallah and that. So this hadith, in regards to even Imam Tirmidhi, who's related it, He said, هذا حديث غريب. Hadith gharib is a very weak hadith. Even Ahmad bin Hanbal has said that this hadith is weak and should not be accepted. Why? Because of the far-fetchedness of its subject matter. It seems a little bit too far-fetched and has some funny things in it that are very hard to accept. So the great muhaddithin have left this hadith on the side and said that we're not going to, and even though if we look at it, it's against the ayat of Quran where Allah Ta'ala says, فَمَسْتَطَعُوا أَيَذْهَرُوا وَمَسْتَطَعُوا لَهُ نَقَبًا. Allah says they won't be able to jump over it and they won't be able to break it. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّةً. Allah will break it, but they won't be able to break it. You understood? So this hadith also goes against the ayat of Quran, where Allah Ta'ala says that they won't be able to break it and they won't be able to jump over it. So therefore, since the ayat of Quran is very strong, we can't criticize the ayat of Quran. So therefore this hadith we leave on the side, and it doesn't seem like it has very strong meaning in front of the ayat of Quran. In regards to the ayat in Bukhari, the surah, the hadith in Bukhari, of course there we can't say anything about that hadith being wrong, because we know that all the hadith in Bukhari are sahih, they are correct. There's no need for us to even speak about those hadith. But there also Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that وَيْلُ لِلْعَرَبِ فُتِحَ رَضْمُ يَاجُوجُ وَمَاجُوجُ. This much. He said that it has been broken open. This is at the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It doesn't mean that they had broken it, because Rasulullah did not say that they broke it. But it does mean that what? The process has started already. A crack has come in the wall, and it's going to start breaking, and it's going to break soon. Even some ulama say that Nabi Sallallahu was mentioning this allegorically. It wasn't even that he was saying it in a real sense, but he was saying that a wall has opened up, and many even Mufassirin, but Hajj Asqalani says that it was the death of Uthman radiallahu anhu. The death of Uthman radiallahu anhu is the hole in the wall. That after the death of Uthman radiallahu anhu, this ummah will never be able to fix themselves. The Arab will never be able to fix themselves. Allah knows best. So therefore, according to these ulama, they say that the wall has been broken. So if the wall has been broken, then what about the ayat of Quran? If we look at the ayat of Quran, first is the statement of Dhul Qarnayn. هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. He says, this is a mercy of my Lord. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي جَعَلَهُ دَكَّةً. When the promise of my Lord comes, then He will make it into powder, into dust, meaning He will destroy the wall. Now here some of the Mufassirin say wa'da means qiyamah, meaning close to qiyamah, when Yajuj and Majuj will come out. And some people say that no, wa'da does not have to mean that, but wa'da means when Allah will break the wall, which that could be any time. وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. Then after that, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ. This is not the statement of Dhul Qarnayn. Allah is saying this. Allah, He's saying this. So those Mufassirin say that when Allah Ta'ala is saying this, He's saying that not that on that day, on the day of Qiyamah, but when the wall breaks, there will be a continuous attack from the Yajuj Majuj all the way till the horn is blown. They will keep on attacking and attacking and attacking. Now who is this? In the 6th century, in Islamic history, in the 6th century, the Genghis Khan and the Tartars, they came out. Now, Mufassirin also don't say that this is Yajuj Majuj. No, they don't say that. But they say this is part of that continuous problem that came from that area, that once the wall broke, they started now fighting with each other. It's even mentioned in history that at the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he mentioned the statement, already they started gathering their tribes. The tribes started gathering already, and they started very gradually attacking people already. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course we know, in the 6th century, the fitna of the Tartars came out. And it could be that this was some of the process of this, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضُهُمْ, all the way till Qiyamah. This attacking, one aspect of it was the Tartars. In 586, Genghis Khan came and took over the Khilafat in Baghdad. Right? And at that day, you think the massacres are terrible now. On that day, millions of Muslims were killed. Millions. First the women came out, the people of Baghdad, they sent their women out with Quran on their heads and their small children, that please, these are our women, these are our children, let them go. And they killed them. They chopped all their heads off. Then they sent the men out, they killed them also. And then it was amongst the practices of the Tartars that you have to get the Khalifa, the leader. They got the leader and they rolled him up in a carpet and they stomped on him. They made their horses run over them and they kicked him and they trampled him to death. These are the type of people that came, that even in the history it's mentioned that they were so scared, the Muslims were so scared of the Tartars, that a woman from the Mongolians, a woman from the Tartars, she would come and she would tell a person to stay there, stay right there, and they would stay there and she'd kill them. That's how terrified they were, the Muslims. The great, of course, Muhaddith and great scholar Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, Shaykh al-Islam, people only know him from his work in hadith and his work in fiqh. But he was the one that took up the sword and took the Muslims and said, let's fight them. And he fought the Tartars. He was one of the great mujahideen against the Tartars. So anyway, those ulama, they say, so basically there's two tafseers of it. One tafseer is that the wall's been broken and the Ya'juj Ma'juj has come out, but it's a gradual coming out and it's keep on coming and coming. And on the day of judgment, before the day of judgment, when Isa alayhi salam comes, so that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Anbiya, where Allah ta'ala mentions that حَتَّى إِذَا فُتِحَتْ يَأْجُوجُ وَمَأْجُوجُ وَهُمْ مِنْ كُلِّ حَدَبٍ يَنْسِلُونَ. That until the Ya'juj Ma'juj are now let loose, and they will come from every top of the mountain, coming down and attacking the people. The Mufassirin say that Fathu Ma'juj, Ya'juj Ma'juj, that will take place before Qiyamah. When all these tribes will get together in a large amount, and they will start attacking the people, and to such an extent that the Muslims will not do jihad against them. The Muslims will do like we do, right? When something bad is happening and the fighting has to start, so we read Yasin in the masjid, right? Read Yasin, make Khatam Yasin. We don't fight. You read Khatam Yasin. We're scared of fight. At that time, we should be with that Jamaat. Isa alayhi salam said, let's go up to the top of the mountain and make dua. Because you cannot fight with Ya'juj Ma'juj. There's too many of them. That's why the hadith of Nabi Sallam, al-jihad baqin ila yawm al-qiyamah, yani the ulama they say, yani baqin ila qurbi yawm al-qiyamah, close to qiyamah, because there will be no jihad against Ya'juj Ma'juj. They're too strong. The Muslims will not fight them. There's no mujahid that's going to say, Tigil, let's go, let's fight them. They're going to say, get the hell out of here, let's go, run. There's too many of them. So they will go up to the mountaintop, and then you can read in the books how Allah Ta'ala will kill them. So Allah Ta'ala knows best, of course. I'm just giving you the two views of the Mufassirin and what it is. Allah knows best. They're not here right now, so we're safe. But who knows before Qiyamah? May Allah Ta'ala protect us. So Allah Ta'ala mentions after this, and the rest of the surah basically is dealing with the kuffar, with the mu'mineen, the believers, and the ilm of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala says, وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمَ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَرْضًا. And on that day, meaning the day when we gather all the people for Qiyamah. So Allah Ta'ala says, وَعَرَضْنَا جَهَنَّمَ. We will bring the Jahannam, place it before the disbelievers on that day. We will place it right before them. Meaning to instill fear into the kafir and to make it even more fearful for him. The Jahannam will be brought close to him, and right in front of him the Jahannam will be there. May Allah protect us. Allah Ta'ala says, why is He going to do this? Because in the dunya, when the haqq was brought right in front of them, they didn't see it. Right in front of them, the haqq was brought, the truth was brought, and they rejected it. They didn't listen to it. So therefore, it's only right on this day that the Jahannam should be brought right in front of you, so you can see the reality of what you did in the dunya. So Allah Ta'ala says here, الَّذِينَ كَانَتْ أَعْيُنُهُمْ فِي غِطَاءٍ عَنْ ذِكْرِي وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ سَمْعًا. Allah Ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ كَانَتْ أَعْيُنُهُمْ. Those people whose eyes were in a covering. An dhikri, from my remembrance, meaning my Quran. They did not listen to my Quran. They did not see the haqq. Obviously, they were not blind. This is talking about a blindness where a person cannot see that which is right. وَكَانُوا لَا يَسْتَطِيعُونَ سَمْعًا. And they could not hear also, meaning they could not hear the haqq. They could not hear the truth. Meaning, they were not deaf, But Allah Ta'ala made it such because of their deeds and their sins that Allah did not let them listen to the haqq and the truth. Since we've given a lot of information about the Yajuj Majuj, inshallah we'll finish off the surah. After this we have one last ruku, which is mashallah important, and some very important messages are there. So we'll do that inshallah. I don't know if we're doing it next week. I believe there is a program next week. Is that true? Was it here? They told me today that there's a program next week. So I don't know. If there's not, then we'll be here. If there is, then you guys will be informed during the week that there's no tafsir. May Allah Ta'ala open up. Basically, the Surah Kahf is done. The last few ayats have nothing to do with the story about anybody. So may Allah Ta'ala give us, I just wanted to give you an insight on what the Mufassirin have. I hope you guys understood it. These, inshallah, later on I can give you the books that I've gotten them from. These are different books by some of the historians of Islam. And it's very interesting reading also. If you want to read it, you can read it. The books are in Urdu and English also. So I haven't gotten them all from Arabic books. Some of them are Arabic books, but in Urdu and English also, stories of the Quran. I'll show you inshallah the book. I'll bring it next week and show you where. And you can read it yourself. It's much more detailed. I didn't go into it so much. History is a dry subject sometimes. People don't like it, dates and all those things. But for this, inshallah, I thought it was important that we understand a little bit what the Mufassirin have said, and that to show that these people were around. History also, some people say that the Quran doesn't connect with history. Historically, it doesn't connect. It does connect. It does connect, and these things were real things that happened. They have been accounted for, and they have been, we just have to look and make sure that we see. Of course, Allah Ta'ala would never tell a lie, and everything in the Quran is true. May Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand it. Wa akhu dawan, alhamdulillah bil alamin.